What if I told you that zero point 0.1 Bitcoin is more than just a number? What if it could be the key to your financial future? In a world where traditional money is losing its value faster and faster, stick around. Because today we're revealing why even a fraction of a Bitcoin is an absolutely massive deal. A lot of people think Bitcoin is unaffordable. They see the price for one whole Bitcoin and just switch off. But here's the thing, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. There are only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. 99.9% of the world's population will never be able to afford a whole Bitcoin no matter what happens. But 0.1 Bitcoin, that's a different story. 0.01 Bitcoin, that's also possible. Or 0.005 Bitcoin, that's 500,000 Satoshis. Each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million units. You can buy as many or as few of these units as you like. $1 might be worth a few thousand Satoshis. So if you only have $10 a month to spare, you can invest $10 a month. It's as simple as that. If you don't want to buy Bitcoin, that's your choice. You have the chance, but most people ignore it because they think it leads to nothing. I might be quite radical when I say Bitcoin will go to $1 million, maybe even $10 million. Why? Because 99.9% of the world doesn't see it. They don't understand it. Even the majority of people who own Bitcoin don't truly understand it because they haven't invested the time. Many who own Bitcoin will sell in the coming years because they don't really grasp what it is. They will sell it for dollars or euros, and I believe institutions will play a role in this. They will be the reason. Personally, I see it this way. Institutions will drive the price so high that anyone who can't afford it will be pushed out of the market. More specifically, anyone who hasn't bought in yet. What will they do? They will exchange more and more dollars and euros for Bitcoin because those can be created from thin air. They will offer more and more of them, and no matter how many they offer, it won't be enough because that money can be created out of nothing. They will simply drive up the price, and anyone who is paid in dollars or euros will no longer be able to afford that amount of Bitcoin. Let's say you can afford 0.1 Bitcoin today. At some point you won't be able to afford that. You'll be priced out. Then maybe you can still afford 0.05 Bitcoin. That's 5 million Satoshis. And at some point you'll be priced out of 5 million Satoshis too, and then out of 1 million Satoshis. If we look at the beginnings of Bitcoin, we know that at one point you could buy maybe 100 Bitcoin for $1. That's absolutely insane. But once that supply was exhausted, once the number of people willing to sell Bitcoin at that price dried up, we never went back to that price again. Because Bitcoin is finite. The people who own Bitcoin have a finite amount they can put on the market. They can only influence the market to a certain extent. Let's take a country as an example. Let's say a government sells 50,000 Bitcoin for about $53,000 or $54,000 each. After they sell, they're out. They can't sell anymore. You can't just create more and more Bitcoin and dump it on the market. On the other hand, the US dollar works just like that. If there's a demand for the US dollar, if the purchasing power of the US dollar rises, the Federal Reserve wants to create inflation. The Federal Reserve will print more and tell the banks to issue more dollars. More people will go to the banks, take out loans, and lower the value of the dollar again. With Bitcoin, however, no one can do that. If you have Bitcoin, you have a finite amount of Bitcoin. Once you sell it, it's gone. You will probably have to pay much more to get it back. And I believe that's the difference. The people who think, oh, I can't afford a Bitcoin, I can't afford 10 Bitcoin, I can't afford 1,000 Bitcoin, so I'll buy this random altcoin because I can buy thousands of them. Why wouldn't I want thousands of this random altcoin? They are going to miss out. I think these are lessons you have to go through. It's like buying stocks in the dot-com bubble. For example, when I first started with stocks, I bought some random stocks because I saw Apple at, say, $500 before the split. Today, that would probably be worth $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 or whatever. But I ignored it because I saw these other cheaper stocks that were much less expensive. I thought those stocks had more potential because Apple had already grown so much. Of course, I lost money because of that. I believe many people will have to go through these lessons. They will have to see their portfolio go to zero. At that point, maybe they can only afford 1/10 of the Bitcoin they could buy today. How do you explain money to people? One of my sisters-in-law actually asked me this. She said, hey, why do you think Bitcoin will go up? So I tried to explain to her why the current financial system is corrupt. I had a $20 bill in my wallet and I showed it to her. I said, did you know that governments can print this? They can make as many of these as they want. And she said, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know they print money. I didn't know they could make as much as they want. So I told her, yes, that's what's happening. She's a nurse, so she gives her time, effort and energy to help other people. She spends a lot of time at work. Nurses, of course, have 12-hour shifts. They work 3-4 days a week. So they work a lot. I told her, you sacrifice this time, this finite time that you will never get back, and in return you get these things that someone else can just print. Why would you give up your hobbies? Why would you give up time with your child? Why would you give up time with your family to chase this thing that someone else can print? I don't know if it really clicked with her, but I think this really helps to put it into perspective for many people, because they spend the majority of their time working for money. They spend the majority of their time trying to earn money, and most of these people are not where they want to be in life because the money they have is being printed out of thin air. More and more dollars and euros are being added to the economy. So what happens is they save, they invest their time, they do everything right, they spend less than they earn, they're doing everything right, they put their savings in a bank account, they're making the right decisions, they are delaying gratification, they are not looking for instant gratification. But at the same time, they are being screwed because more and more of these dollars and euros are being printed. So you have, let's say, $100,000 in your bank account. If your government goes and prints more, you might lose $5,000 in purchasing power in 1 year. Then if your government prints more, you might lose another $10,000, then another $20,000. In 30 years, your $100,000 will probably be able to buy $20,000 worth of goods. And that's not because of corporate greed. It's not because of capitalism. It's not because the people producing these things are greedy. It's because they understand that the money supply in the system is increasing. They see the raw materials they use. They see the inputs for everything they produce. Take a farmer, for example. Farmers have to pay for certain things. They have to pay for seeds. They have to maintain their equipment. They have to do all these things. They have to pay rent. They have to pay property taxes. When their costs go up, they have to pass those costs on to the customers. If they can't pass those costs on to the customers, they go bankrupt. So what's happening here is that as more and more dollars are printed, the raw materials they need are being chased by more and more dollars. So as more dollars chase these raw materials, the price will go up because these raw materials are finite, while the dollars are infinite. More and more dollars can be created, added to the economy, and spent on whatever you want. And think about it, we have the highest debt levels we've ever had. Governments are in debt by the trillions. They are supposed to be the ones enforcing the use of this currency. That alone tells you that this entire system is broken. It doesn't work the way it should. Even the people who are supposed to enforce this currency don't want it. People don't want the dollar or the euro. They want others to store their value in dollars or euros. But they themselves don't want dollars or euros. They want to borrow dollars or euros and buy whatever they can. When you look at it from that perspective, it just shows that the entire system is broken. It's completely corrupt. It's a completely messed up system. They use money they borrowed, which was created out of nothing. Then the bank charges interest on this thing it created out of nothing. And the end user, the person who actually lives in this house that was bought with fake money, that person is the one who works their fingers to the bone. And back to what I said about the nurse, my sister-in-law. She constantly sees her cost of living go up even though she's working harder. She's working harder than ever before. And I try to explain to her it's not because you're doing the wrong things. It's because the money you're using is broken. It doesn't work. Money is supposed to have 3 functions: a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. If you cannot store value in money, then it is not money. What we use today is a currency. Everyone I know personally thinks that dollar bills, euro notes, and coins are money. But the reality is, that's not money. That's currency. That's something these banks can multiply at any time. You are trading your finite resource for this thing that can be created out of thin air that someone else can print. It's an arbitrage opportunity for the person on the other end. They're basically siphoning everything from you and profiting from your hard work. It makes no sense if people don't even stop for 2 seconds and think about it. And that is precisely why it is so crucial to seize the opportunity to secure 0.1 Bitcoin now. Because while the infinite supply of fiat money continues to inflate, your share of the finite Bitcoin network remains, becoming more valuable in proportion. 0.1 Bitcoin today could be the difference between opting out of this broken system and being stuck in it for life. If you now want to know how you can retire with Bitcoin in 4 simple steps, then check out our next video now and start planning for your financial freedom.